broadcast on Facebook.
All supposed to get kind of hot and muggy later on today. You're listening to News 102.3 KRMG.
I love KRMG's Ask the Expert weekends. I learn a lot from each show. The shows are inspiring.
Whether it's mechanics or gardening, I learn so much.
Okay. Good. Can you picture your camera?
Am I up like this or am I down?
No, you're hiding behind the mic.
Can I go right here?
Yeah, that'd be good. And that lifts up. Lift those things out some more. No, the feet.
It slides up on the pole.
I'll do it afterwards. I can't.
No. Just lift it up. No. There you go.
Yep.
Keep pulling them.
All of them.
There you go.
Now tell her if it looks good, babe, since she can't see herself.
Got this.
Okay. You're good, Hillary.
And not necessarily those of KRMG or the program sponsors.
Very good. And on the first break, you'll take Media 1, and you can just start playing that. Okay. Share tips and insights on buying and selling homes. Plus, you'll hear from interesting guests on maintaining and improving the home. You're an interesting guest. Can you pull that closer to the...
I will.
Okay. That's good.
Real estate, Darryl Best.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Future of Real Estate, Tulsa's source for local real estate news and information. I'm Darryl Baskin of the Baskin Real Estate Specialists at eXp Realty. Joined today by Hillary.
Hello.
At the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. And Bridget Brickwells, Airbnb expert. Dan Newberry is going to be calling in with TTCU Federal Credit Union and TTCU's Mortgage Minute. Today's program brought to you by TTCU Federal Credit Union, Integrity Title and Abstract, Window World of Tulsa, and the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. We always open the program with a nonprofit or community spotlight, and we don't have someone, it's holiday weekend, not just any holiday, but Independence Day weekend, not July 4th weekend, but Independence Day weekend. That's what we're celebrating, is our independence, right, Miss Bridget? We have discussions off air. But it is Independence Day weekend, so we don't have anybody here in studio. I think we should talk about someone. Let's talk about someone
about Dan.
Behind their backs.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about Dan.
Who's doing something good?
It's CASA. My preferred are always CASA and Junior Achievement. Well, first of all, think about what's coming later this year. It's going to be back to school time very soon. So put it on your to-do list. If you have any business experience, if you own a business, if you work at a business, if you used to own a business, if you're retired, if you're active, working in a business, you have experience. It's important to our young people. The experiences that help them make a connection between their education and the real world. And that's what Junior Achievement does. It teaches the economics of life. Think about how many of our young people don't actually have someone in the home who brings a paycheck home. They don't see that role model. And that's one of the most critical aspects of what Junior Achievement does. Look at my home, where kids see someone bringing home a paycheck, but they don't listen to him. But now listen, that is also a serious aspect of what I'm saying. The kids, when they identify with someone else, maybe you're telling your kids the same thing. Hey, we don't have the money. You don't just write a check. I mean, that's what my older kids used to think. You just go write a check, Dad. I mean, that's free money, right? But when they engage with someone different, hearing the same thing from a different perspective, or possibly the first time they've ever heard it in their lives, because it's the first mentorship, the first real engagement with someone in the business community, maybe they identified with, I could actually do this, then it makes education much more meaningful. And you can hear it from the teachers, the administrators, the people who say every day, a light bulb came on when a junior achievement volunteer came to my class and spoke and taught a class. And junior achievement makes it easy. Makes it easy for you to walk in, to share your knowledge, and to engage with these students at all grade levels, all kindergarten all the way up to the senior high level. And it's grade specific. Everything from world economics to just how our local city works. So get involved with JA. It's jaok.org. They'll be looking for volunteers here really soon. And it's a lot easier to say yes when you've had kind of a mental plan for it. It's jaok.org. Put it on your list. Also, CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocates. Those are the volunteers who, and when we talk about home stuff here, we sell houses all the time. There's nothing more close to home than where children feel safe and secure. And there are children who don't have safety and security at home. And when a child is brought into, quote, the system, unquote, and we wonder, like, how does that work? What's going on? Who's taking responsibility for these children and making sure that they get the voice that they deserve? Well, guess what? Sometimes they don't. And that's where a CASA comes in. When a judge is sitting on the bench and they have this very short window to make a decision on the future of this child, whose custody they're going to be in, what services need to be required of the parents and the other caregivers, a CASA brings the child's real voice into the court and speaks for them as an adult who can talk to the parents, talk to the teachers, the foster parents, help me out here, Bridget, you've got
They're
all
therapists, they're medical providers.
That's where the CASA comes in, and then presents that information to the judge so that they can make a better decision. Court-appointed special advocates. Here's the interesting thing. We don't, and I'm on the board for CASA. I say that because when I say we, that's what I'm speaking for. We don't get this poster child per se, because this is all private things that are unable to be shared. These stories, but let me tell you, they are abundant. And the need for CASAs and people to speak for these children in the court system to make sure they have a good chance at getting into that safe and secure home is critical. And that's why we need you, Tulsa CASA. It's tulsacasa.org. I'm Darryl Baskin. You're listening to The Future of Real Estate, Tulsa's source for local real estate news and information. We have a great show today, and it is going to be Bridget Brick Wells to talk about, she's an Airbnb expert. I don't know if anybody else does more Airbnb work here in the Tulsa area. And we'll also talk to Hillary about what happens if you have a unicorn house. Have you ever had a unicorn house?
Do you even know what a unicorn house is?
We're going to find out here on The Future of Real Estate, back after this. I didn't bring in any water.
I'm sure not. As long as you don't backlash.
Okay. Can you cut our mics?
30 years, and it is a
Thank you so
critical
much.
part of the experience that my buyers and sellers have. When I get them to the closing
If we don't
What
have
is this
speakers.
and everything
What?
is
What is
prepared,
going on?
everything's
This-
efficient and on time.
It's a commercial I
there
did
aren't
for-
surprises.
Oh,
Is that what
oh.
you're talking about?
And
Oh, wait a
that's
minute.
the last experience
Run,
they
for our
have when
Facebook
they're
friends,
working
we're going to
with
run some
Baskin
exciting
Specialists.
commercials while we take a break.
It's so
This-
important
You gonna do that?
I have the right title company.
I live in I live in a 100-year-old home. It's a home I fell in love with, and it has so many amazing features. But the one thing it does not have is straight windows. It has windows that are cracked and broken and worn out. I contacted Window World. They came in and put these brand new, amazing, incredible incredibly beautiful windows into my home. From the outside of the house, they match the exterior perfectly. It looks like they've always been here. Now the windows are the jewels in the home. Window World, from the beginning to the end, they met and exceeded every expectation I had. Window World really is simply the best for less.
From Window World of Tidewater,
We're the Reeds, and for nearly 2 decades,
and a few generations,
we've been transforming your houses to dream homes right here in Hampton Roads. Join us for a seamless remodeling experience.
Call for a free estimate.
It's a free report for home sellers to help you decide the best real estate agent for your property. Start asking the questions. You'll start to have a better understanding of who that person is, how they run their business, what they can do for you. And you'll find the professionals will really stand out from the crowd. It's a free report. You can get it at 20questionsforhomesellers.com. That's 20questionsforhomesellers.com. No cost, no obligation. Get in the driver's seat. Be a home seller who's in the know, who's making the right decisions for you. 20questionsforhomesellers.com.
One address, thousands of homes, homeguidetulsa.com. Let me start with this house that will be open tomorrow in Bixby. Hillary knows about it. 13407 South 90th East Avenue. Open tomorrow, that's Sunday, from 2 to 4. And I don't expect it to last long. $142,000. If you want to buy a house, any house in Bixby, under $150,000, you have like, what, 3 choices? Okay, maybe 5. But really, there aren't hardly any choices. And this one has total living area about 1,700-ish square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and situated in a nice cul-de-sac. It's in Blue Ridge. If you know much about Bixby, you'll know where Blue Ridge is. And that's about 131st and Memorial. So 13407 South 90th East Avenue, 142,000 even, maybe 5. I don't know if I'm wrong on the price. You can offer
142 is right.
You can offer 142. If I'm wrong on the price, we'll work something out on the $500. Okay. HomeGuideTulsa.com. You can find us on Facebook, by the way, streaming live to Facebook and the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. Today's program brought to you by TTCU Federal Credit Union, Integrity Title and Abstract, my friends at Window World, and the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. Imagine that. Just imagine that. So coming up in a little bit, do you have a unicorn house? Hillary will help us figure that one out. But first, Airbnb has been a really hot topic. Really hot topic. And it amazes me. People know that I have Airbnbs. And people ask questions all the time. Like, what is it? It's a big deal at the city. You know, what are the rules for this thing going to be, etc. It's a very positive. Oh, I just made some people upset right now. Because there's all this hysteria around with some people about Airbnb, and it's just going to ruin everything, ruin the community, ruin whatever, because it's
the
short term
response.
Yeah, it is. Well, listen. First thing I want to say is, hey, I get it. I understand why there could be some concern, but I'm here to present, as someone who owns an Airbnb, what many Airbnbs actually. What a tremendous difference this has made in my own properties, in the quality of people who stay in my apartments that I've converted to Airbnbs. So I want to open it with that. Bridget Brickwells is, you've got your own, you manage mine, ours, and talk about some of that experience. You're really heavily involved with this and do all the communication back and forth, where these people have come from. They're not transients that are like homeless people moving in that are going to take over or throw wild parties.
That does happen, but it's not something that's allowable. And Airbnb provides excellent liability coverage for the homeowner that supersedes your own homeowner's policy.
So what is Airbnb? Let's talk about the platform. Maybe it's not a buzzword for everybody.
So it's both short-term and long-term rentals, but it is, some people are more familiar with VRBO or home away.
Vacation rental by owners, what
Correct.
VRBO stands for.
Correct. And Airbnb came along, it's been around for almost 10 years. but it's still relatively new in most markets.
10 years is an eternity in technology terms.
Sure. But what they did very successfully was to create a platform that improved upon what other like companies such as the RBO and HomeAway were already doing.
Well, and people don't often know or think about, Airbnb is the largest short-term stay hotelier platform. I forgot the exact word that it falls in the category of, but it is the largest on the planet.
Sure.
So this is a big deal.
Yeah, they've grown rapidly, and I think it's a testimony to the success of the both the engineers who create the apps and the platforms that support it, but also the philosophy and the model behind it, which is absolutely community. So guests are reviewed, hosts are reviewed, and there's a premium placed on that. You want to maintain a high rating as both a guest and a host because it's completely transparent.
Well, let's talk about that community because it's different. It's like, okay, couch surfing. Like, was that like a hippie term? Is that when that really kind of started?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? Okay.
People much younger than us probably
it's
don't
a little,
know what that is.
Never
it's
heard
a
of that.
little. It's okay. Mark's shaking his head. I think you have a comment, Mark. No comment. Okay. So you got. I think there could be several different interpretations of what couch surfing
Maybe for
is.
some you should just give a quick definition.
Well, okay, you're staying over at a friend's house, kind of thing. Okay,
couch surfing, got it.
You're traveling, and it's like, hey, my friend in California says that you got a friend here, and whatever, and so there's some sort of acquaintance.
Yep.
There you go. So.
And actually, the founders of Airbnb in San Francisco, that's how they started it, was that they just opened up their couch, basically. And they were kind of tech guru people, and they said, hey, what if we kind of created a platform for anybody who... Okay. So it was actually created initially for people to have people staying in their homes, either in their guest bedrooms or literally their couches.
While you're staying there. So you're renting out a
Mm-hmm.
little room or whatever, offsetting some of the cost. But now, this has developed into something that's much more than that. That still exists. I went to a real estate conference in St. Louis and stayed in someone's condominium. Their cat didn't like me, but it was so much more convenient. They were so polite. It was good to make a connection to someone. As I had new friends there.
Sure, and so you have that option, or right all the way up to luxury homes that people are putting out there. Their vacation homes where it's a $10,000 a week rental on Airbnb. So you have the whole spectrum of a $15 a night,
kind of like the PGA,
almost like a hostel stay
thing.
To a $10,000 a week luxury vacation home in Italy type of a situation. So.
Before Airbnb, PGA would come to town and people would lease out their entire property to the groups of the PGA groups who were coming to town. And so, but now this has just been mechanized and systematized.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Explain the quality of difference as you see it that these people, because you helped manage my properties before they were converted to Airbnb, and firsthand, the difference in the caliber of people who will stay. And then we're not talking about, listen, this is not an economic caliber only. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even have to have anything to do with economics. Like, it's just that this review process, you can be like scathed.
Well, and here's the big difference about what you're talking about. In this exact same building, and we'll talk about the one on 8th Street because it's so close to TU, we've had grad students who were living there, who trashed the place, who threw parties, who left holes in the walls or smoked inside even though that wasn't
This
allowed.
was not Airbnb.
No, and those were regular tenants. Well, now we have the same situation under Airbnb where I get grad students. Darryl's building on 8th Street has 5 of the apartments currently rented out for the entire summer to grad students who are here, or not even just grad students, but students who are doing internships over the summer through TU. And they're great. They're paying a lot more than what a traditional tenant would pay.
But a lot less. It's a savings to them. A lot less than something else.
To them.
And they don't have long-term leases, so they're not stuck with this one-year lease.
And even more than that is for a student to stay in the dorms at TU is astronomically, exponentially more expensive over the summer than it is for them to stay in our listing and do the same work, and they're close enough to campus or wherever their internship program is. So, I've got a married couple who are both med students on rotation here at OSU Med Center. They're here for a month. So we get travel nurses who are on 13-week contracts. We get people coming for a weekend to go see a concert at the BOK. So it's a whole mix of different types of people who they may be looking for a much more economical place to stay than a hotel.
One of the opera singers stayed.
Yeah, we had a Japanese opera singer who was lovely. He was performing at the Performing Arts Center.
Curator for an exhibit at the Philbrook.
Yeah.
So just really fun stuff.
And
so
people
you get
from
to
all
meet
over the
these
world that come to Tulsa. The people who come for the Art Deco experience that we have here. I had somebody come here from Scotland on their honeymoon because Route 66 was what they decided to do on their honeymoon.
The things that we take for granted every day. Listen, when I tell these little stories about how Tulsa is really happening, and I've talked about this for many, many years as kind of like we have an inferiority complex of sorts because we're here every day. We take it for granted, and we don't really understand how much we have to offer as a city. And it's more and more cohesive now with the message that we're presenting. And what we see happening, I don't think Tulsa still even understands how much is going on between the people who travel in. This is what I see from the Airbnb experience I have is managing that, owning those, is people are here for something all the time.
Right.
And I learned about something that was happening, a festival that was going on that I'd never even knew existed, and we got people showing up. Yeah, and of course,
literally from all over the world. It was the Hanson brothers. We had people.
The whole building filled up.
Yeah, and two women came specifically from London, and they brought with them their Hanson brothers board game.
I know, it was.
And they all connected with each other, like they all met each other through the building. They were staying there, and in different apartments, and they all kind of became friends and just swapped, contacts. And we'll stay here and we'll be back next year.
Well, and they had a blast. And think about it when you travel, when you leave and you go experience something else, somewhere else, that is commonplace to someone in that part of the country or that part of the world, and they're just walking around, doing whatever they do on a daily basis, going to work. It's like going to the beach. You live by the beach, you never go because you're busy working, but we go and like, oh, I can't wait to go by the beach. It'd be so great to live here.
Well, and it's not even just that. We had, during this recent spate of floods where people were displaced temporarily from their homes and they had nowhere to go. The casino shut down because of the flood, so that reduced the number of even hotel rooms available. But for people who, they're already facing an economic crisis with their homes being flooded, means that they needed not to spend $100+ a night on a hotel, and we were able to accommodate a lot of those people.
Such a well-rounded thing. And so the presentation here for this discussion is really how valuable Airbnb can be to a community and the types of people that it brings in. It's opened up a new market for Tulsa when Airbnb came around. You're listening to The Future of Real Estate. I'm Darryl Baskin of the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. We're going to have, I think, Dan Newberry with TTCU Federal Credit Union and TTCU's Mortgage Minute up after this. And Hillary Odell tell us about unicorn houses. Stay tuned.
I want to be an interpreter for sign language.
Maybe try to be a lawyer.
I would like to run like a little cafe.
Junior Achievement gives young people the skills they need to own their economic success, plan for their future, and make smart academic choices. Our volunteers help students with financial literacy, work readiness, and entrepreneurship.
And it's really helping me understand how it's going to be in the future.
I live in a 100-year-old home. It's a home I fell in love with, and it has so many amazing features. But the one thing it does not have is straight windows. It has windows that are cracked and broken and worn out. I contacted Window World. They came in and put these brand new, amazing, incredibly beautiful windows into my home. From the outside of the house, they match the exterior perfectly. It looks like they've always been here. Now the windows are the jewels in the home. Window World, from the beginning to the end, they met and exceeded every expectation I had. Window World really is simply the best for less.
When quality and value matter most, choose Window World. Superior service, American-made products, and industry-leading warranties make us the #1 choice for your next home remodel. J.D. Power ranked Window World highest in customer satisfaction with window and patio door retailers. Be proud of your home and take care of it with a brand you can trust. Window World, America's exterior remodeler.
So we get a contract on your home, and now we've got to talk about those things that are staying with the house. The time to really talk about it, though, is now, before we have a contract. So things that are expected to stay will be kind of in the fine print. It's really not that fine. It's a section in the contract. Now, I've included that, a link to it, so that you can see it and review it. But there's some other items that are by default expected, and those things would be considered attached to the house. So if they're not listed in the section that I've included for you, that link, then maybe you need to remove them or replace them. Let me give you an example. Your great-grandmother's Tiffany lamp that you had installed. Well, if some buyer comes in and just falls in love with it, that's something that you're going to find very hard to replace. So replace it now. A buyer's going to come in, they're going to probably like or be indifferent to what you picked, but if you don't replace it ahead of time, then they're going to fall in love with it, and the whole sale of the house is going to be teetering on this lamp. Or window coverings, or bathroom mirrors, or another example, something that's just really special to you. So think about those things. If they are yours, get them out of sight, or if they're yours and you can't just go to Walmart and replace it with something else, get those out of sight. Now, the other items can be lawn implements of some sort, like decorations. Those can often be a gray area. So if there's a statuary or something of that nature, maybe a hand-painted mailbox, whatever, if you've got a question about it, call me and ask. And if in doubt, let's just get it out of sight so we don't have to worry about it and it doesn't become a hindrance to your successful sale and closing.
KRMG certified meteorologist Laura Mock.
Thank you, Laura. Right now we are warming up. We're up to 89 degrees, overcast skies. Actually,
make sure you
not
have
too
the
bad
next person
outside
in
right
the
now. Looking
queue
pretty
there.
good. It's 1:34. More of Darryl Baskin in the future of real estate right now. Get the real store.
Want to dress thousands of homes? Home Guide at Tulsa.com. How about a very special home? It's not on the market yet. If you drive by, it'll have, what were those big eyes?
I'm so excited. Tell me
You know
more.
which one it is.
No, I don't.
It's 45th.
Oh, yes. I've heard of that one.
So you've not heard of it. You've been to it.
I have.
13416 East 45th Street. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, single level, 2-car garage. It is so new.
Cul-de-sac, too.
It is cul-de-sac. So both of these that were 134 something are in a cul-de-sac. It's so new that Hillary hasn't even typed in the property data yet in the system.
This is accurate.
I have this blank.
Please call me out again.
It's blank. It says, talk about this house on the radio, and it says bedrooms, baths, garage, and nothing.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
fortunately, I know it. So we'll talk about it being in Union Schools, in a quiet cul-de-sac, or at least it's quiet when I'm there.
It is quiet. Is it Union or Broken Arrow?
It's Union.
Okay.
It's Union. And what's interesting about this place in Quail Ridge, or Quail Run, whatever it is, it's quail.
Something's quailing.
You know, the forest, quail, what are the others? They're just used, Park Plaza. There are so many of each of those, you just kind of have to, like, mumble the words after you say the beginning. Quail, it's in one of those. So that was developed back when, like, Eastland Mall and all of this stuff going east was going to be, the big thing, and then it just kind of stopped, and the industrial park there just kind of floundered. Well, now Quick Trip is there. You've got all the Girl Scouts building is new. You got the Quick Trip on the corner. The Quick Trip
in the
Quick
park.
Trip.
Isn't there a park right there?
Yes, health department's now filled in. The Ford Glass plant is now converting to all of the other industrial facilities there. So this is like the place to be, and it's just kind of hidden. People kind of forget it's there. Some of the other neighborhoods are now being developed adjacent to it. And what happens when this happens through a cycle in real estate is the housing price in this neighborhood is much lower than what you can get something new. So what I'm trying to say, besides just blurting out, oh, it's great value, it's a great value, which what real estate agent doesn't say that, is giving you the reasoning behind why it's a great value. 165, shop around and look for something with that location, that school district, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's in great condition, a nice large backyard, storage shed, and you won't find it on MLS until later this week. So look for it, but you can also just give us a call at the Baskin Real Estate Specialists, and we'd be happy to, by the way, work with your real estate agent. One of the things we don't do is do this coming soon thing to try to cut other realtors out, because we want to have a reputation. If you're a realtor listening and you see it coming soon on one of our houses or it's not in MLS, I don't want you to fret at all to call and show one of our properties, because that momentum is what helps us sell the next house. And if you're a home seller and you're wanting to get the most bang for your buck out of using a realtor, find someone who sees the other realtors as their customers. They're your customers too, and that's what the MLS and the goodwill behind the MLS is all about, because that puts over 3,000 other real estate agents. Maybe they sell 100 houses a year, maybe they sell 2. It doesn't matter. They are your customer, and that's what that process is about. So have your realtor call or call us directly, 918-258-2600, the Baskin Real Estate Specialists, or 918-740-0077. That's the home buyer hotline. Do we have Dan on the phone? Okay. Well, Dan just came back from a really exciting trip somewhere. I don't know, Grand Cayman. We were going to talk about financing non-owner occupant properties, which is exactly what we're talking about here. Well, sometimes with Airbnb.
Right.
But it's not the same, Bridget Brickwells, as financing a regular rental property, which does become a little more challenging. And I know you're not financing it in your shtick.
No, but we've dealt with that in the early part of doing this now for nearly 5 years. Early on, lenders really didn't understand, and they didn't have a product that addressed short-term rentals, and there was kind of some head scratching about, well, you're not a hotel, but you're also not really even a regular commercial apartment building anymore either. And then you get into the issues sometimes with they want rent rolls, and rent rolls don't look anything like they do with traditional tenancies. But
they didn't know how to value it. It was
right.
So early on in the process. With one of mine in particular, it was a challenge. And if I hadn't known the banker, then it would have even been a bigger challenge. But fortunately, I was still paying my bills, and they said, okay, well, at least something's going right here. Maybe we can listen.
They could see that the income was so much greater.
But they didn't understand the business model,
right?
And because the income is greater, they weren't able to see the expenses, to evaluate the expenses, and they also weren't able to look. They normally want to look at a rent roll,
right?
And say, okay, well, show us all your leases. So we see that you have these contracts with all these people. It's much less likely that it's going to go down the tubes. Well, you don't have that when it's Airbnb.
No. And I don't think we're seeing that so much. It's been around long enough now, and enough people actually are purchasing properties specifically for using them as Airbnb properties, that lenders are much more familiar with it. I know we aren't really touching on this topic right now, but the other big change we've seen is with insurance. And
we just touched on it.
Yeah.
Talk about insurance, because that was another challenge
yes.
that also presented itself with a better circumstance.
It did. Initially, it was very hard to figure out. Most larger brokerages have some product for short-term rentals, and so that was built within it. But we didn't see really any change in our insurance until we've been doing this 3 or 4 years, and then our policies actually, in some instances, were cut in half because insurance companies are now seeing that $1 million Airbnb liability policy, which supersedes your homeowner's policy, really does pay out, and they aren't seeing the claims from these short-term rentals anywhere near as high as what you would have in a traditional tenant.
What are some of the management differences with Airbnb?
It's management.
As a property management.
Yeah, it's management intensive. So the two things that are the most critically important to a successful Airbnb business are communication and cleaning. So people actually hold Airbnbs to a higher standard than they do hotels. I don't think most I don't think most people realize how dirty hotel rooms really are. But they know that they're staying potentially in either someone else's home, or that maybe the homeowner themselves are doing the cleaning. And so where you might not think too much about a stray hair on the floor in your bathroom, for Airbnb guests, that's something that is really distressing to them, on the sheets, in the bathroom. Anyway,
Oh my goodness, I saw a hair.
Yeah. That's one of the big things. So kitchen and bathrooms have to be immaculately clean. If you're doing many, like we are, having 10 listings, having a partner that helps you with your housekeeping is also important, because you've got a short window if you're doing a lot of business and a lot of turnovers. And it's just being very responsive. Airbnb actually tracks your response rate, and so I maintain a 99% response rate within an hour.
Well, that's one of the things that contributes to your superhost status.
Correct.
Is being right on top of things, and also managing things through that app, which I think is having a history of just regular property management. It's really nice to have a third party there, Airbnb, in between.
Correct.
Kind of being judge and jury every once in a while, but don't get my way. But most of the time, if you're making good judicial decisions and you're prompt and you're making things clear, you win.
Right.
And so you don't have this issue of being run roughshod over by this bad guest.
Correct.
Called guest in the system.
And it really does work that way. I think the onus is on the host. So Airbnb holds hosts to a very high standard. But it also falls back to the guest. I had a difficult, and I am not one with a critical spirit to begin with, but I did have a guest that
Let's let them have it.
Was really just a very poor guest, and they were manipulative and basically threatened me with a bad review if I didn't give them a refund that they didn't deserve. And I made it clear in my review of them who we are, that I don't typically write poor reviews of guests, but that I felt other hosts needed to know my experience. And that guest actually sent me a very unhappy message that said, I can't believe you've done that. Other hosts, especially super hosts, are declining my requests to stay with them because of your review.
So listen, if you travel and you stay at Airbnbs, don't be a jerk. Because it's going to backfire on you. And this is kind of the vindication. That's happened once out of how many? Like 1,000.
We've had more than 1,400 completed
Okay,
reservations.
so this is one tiny little story out of the big picture. But the stuff like that is where the Airbnb platform is really a win for property owners when it's the right thing for you. Because remember, it's very it's very management intensive. But it's also a win for the traveler, because you get to stay in unique locations. We travel, we go to Airbnbs because you get a different flair.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not the same as a hotel, though. So talk about those differences. You might have a cleaning fee if you're a traveler. You might have a cleaning fee,
sure,
or some extra, or a minimum stay.
Correct. Most hosts charge a cleaning fee in addition to their nightly rate. It is still, across the board, less expensive than a hotel, though. Our municipalities now do also charge occupancy tax, which they didn't when we first started, but those are collected from the guest by Airbnb and paid directly to the correct entity. So as a host, you're not even responsible for managing taxes and those kinds of fees. You just get money.
Airbnb has been very proactive. There's started to be a little backlash as to them not collecting it. So they've been very proactive to help the hosts and the guests for that matter, log and track that, because there's been a lot of upheaval to the hospitality community. It's like, hey, well, if you don't charge it to somebody who's basically being a hotelier on a very small scale, versus I have to pay a tax for travel and tourism, et cetera, that's not fair.
Right.
And so it really, and even as an Airbnb host, I think it's only fair that I have to pay that too, because that's what contributes to all of these things we see happening around the community that are bringing people in the first place. The festivals, the shows, and the OK Center.
Sure.
By itself years and years ago. By the way, this stuff has been brewing for a long time. I talk about it, and you think this just kind of happened overnight, but if you trace back all the decisions that were being made by our leaders, some causing some serious upheaval in the community and debate, some of it not being very friendly, those are the things that have really helped us get to where we are, and that's change. So talking about that as change, we have the issue about Airbnb being in neighborhoods.
Right.
It's different. That's part of the different experience. It's one of the reasons I like to go and stay at an Airbnb is I don't want to be a traveler in the middle of all the souvenir shops. I want to experience what it's like to be there.
Well, and I think one of the things that I speak to people who are homeowners, single-family residents, homeowners, who are saying, I'm getting pushback from members in my neighborhood that they don't want an Airbnb in their neighborhood. And I quickly ask them, is this going to be a rental home no matter what? You're not going to be living in it as your residence. And they tell me, no, it's going to be a rental home. Well, the education piece that's really important is we maintain properties as Airbnb hosts far better
than a regular rental would be.
A regular rental would be. Not only just because if you've got a tenant in for a year, you can't just go in anytime. You're not in and out of them. You don't have professional cleaners cleaning that property. And if your tenant...
You want to get them out, you got to take them to court.
Yeah, you have to take them to court if they're throwing wild parties.
30-day...
If the yard isn't maintained, all of those things. Airbnb hosts maintain all of those things because our ratings, which are critically important to the success of our business, depend on it. We have, 730 reviews now over the past nearly 5 years. And, those drive all of the decisions that I make all of the time, as you well know. Are we keeping the painting up? Are we keeping, pest management up? Are we making constant improvements to the properties? Yes, you're doing all of that much more. So if you've got a neighbor in your neighborhood that's going to be renting their property, as a fellow person within the neighborhood, you're probably going to be much happier with the short-term tenants or the 3-month
and we don't even call them tenant, we call them
guests.
guests.
They're guests. Or the 3-month travel nurse or the 1-month resident physician who's there than a traditional tenant who has so many more rights than a guest does. As a guest, if Airbnb says, hey, your reservation's canceled, you violated your agreement, they have to be out.
They're gone.
They're gone. And if they're not, you call the police and they are taken away.
This is not a landlord-tenant situation. No. And that's some of, again, back to the education of what is, sure, there are other things to consider, parking, access of hours, whatever. But those are all things, if you're a neighbor wondering, oh my goodness, this scares me to death, your whole neighborhood wouldn't turn into an Airbnb overnight, because then it's no longer a neighborhood.
Right.
That's the difference of it. But if you've got a neighbor who's like, I've got to rent my house out, I can't do this, or maybe they need to do it for a shorter period of time, before you just jump up with your pitchforks and start chasing them down the street, stop and think of some of the options that homeowner might have to face if they're not allowed to proceed with something that could be much more beneficial than the lesser attractive of putting somebody there for a year and you don't know who you've got. So things to consider. And I think this is an important program to really bring those things out, help people understand it, and begin the conversation. Because your questions that you would have if you're not familiar with Airbnb are good questions. But ask them as questions. Don't be abrasive with them and determine that this is a bad thing, because there's a lot of data that shows that there are good things happening with Airbnb. And Tulsa having so many Airbnbs is part of what's contributing to our economy and the travel and tourism, which, by the way, what was that number 3? The money generated in the state, our income? That's huge. And that's good for all of us. So things to consider. Can you give your number? Do you care? I didn't ask you that ahead of time.
No.
Okay, what's your number?
918-706-2805. I'm happy to talk to anybody who's interested in learning more about the business or seeking out a co-host to help them as they get started.
Bridget Brick Wells, Airbnb expert. When we come back, do you have a unicorn home? We'll tell you all about it with Hillary Odell, a Baskin real estate specialist. It's after this. Okay, Media 3. You're ready to go on Media
Airbnb
3.
fan.
What's that?
I always.
When quality and value matter most, choose Window World. Superior service, American-made products, and industry-leading warranties make us the #1 choice for your next home remodel. J.D. Power ranked Window World highest in customer satisfaction with window and patio door retailers. Be proud of your home and take care of it with a brand you can trust. Window World, America's exterior remodeler.
66 are the things that are most important on this side.
Diane, show me. Here, this is where Tulsa started, right?
Yeah.
So right here is where Red Fork is, Ollie's. You say oil was struck there, and
well, it's not far from there. I think it's actually wells like right up in here.
This vicinity, and so what caused all of this growth up into Tulsa? I mean, if this was originally Tulsa.
Well, just like I stated, is that, this is where all the drilling was going on. This is where all the roughnecks were. It was a very, very rowdy, full steam ahead community in this area. There was a lot of activity going on here. So, like I said, the oil barons, moved across over into here, into the 15th Street area to build their homes.
Okay, so
and
this is now
the downtown area.
This is now downtown, and back over here we have the redevelopment of Crystal City. This is Route 66. And what is it called? The Cyrus Avery Bridge.
Cyrus Avery Bridge.
That's the significance of that bridge. And Route 66 is that was the passageway into what's now our downtown.
Exactly. Well, now this is actually called the Cyrus Avery Plaza.
Plaza, okay.
And then there's the 11th Street Bridge, and they're really the significance of them is two separate things. The bridge, because it gave them access to the other side of the river, to transport things, to transport food, to move to do all the activity to. Otherwise, there was the other location that was down here. So the bridge that was down here, and these two were not here at the time. So this was one of the first ones, and it's very significant because it did give them access to downtown where they began.
And that explains why the west side of the river really was so industrial. This is where our money was.
This is actually where the well is.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's being, drilled here down in Creek County. There's just a ton of oil. In fact, right now, most of the oil in Oklahoma is coming out of Creek County. So it was all down in this area.
Well, Diane, with the new name is Route 66 Main Street.
Yes.
And we'll see signs and a lot of progress. Really?
One address, thousands of homes. Listen, you all should know what it's like to be a host here and have someone through the glass, Mark, giving you faces. Like, what do you have to say for yourself, Mark?
I make faces at him all the time.
Thank you, Mark, for such a nice compliment. There are hand signals that come through the glass, and you just don't always know what's going on. At least, I don't. Being clueless is like part of my MO. Okay, not really. How about 7732 South Harvard Place? You'll find more information at homeguidetulsa.com. I do not know if this house is going to be open this weekend or not. I don't remember. But look online. 54 square feet. 4 bedrooms, 3 full, 1 half baths, 2-car garage. Overlooks Oral Roberts University. Beautiful, beautiful view. And let me think what else we could say about it.
It's in the hills. It's a good backyard, too.
Lowest price per square foot. A big house.
So.
You look for a house that's got 3/4 of an acre. You're not going to find many.
This is the one on the hill, right?
Jinx Schools.
Yeah.
Yes. Kind of in the middle of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
You still have a very nice view.
It's a very good backyard.
It's not. You don't have to be a billy goat to live there. 7732 South Harvard Place. at homeguidetulsa.com. And that's all we're going to do. Let's talk about the unicorn house.
I'm so excited.
I think this is such a wonderful topic because there are unicorn houses.
Mm-hmm.
And
can we say first, a unicorn house does not mean the most beautiful house, fully done, decorated, everything's top notch.
But it doesn't mean it's not either.
No, it doesn't.
So
I'm just
what
saying.
Define a unicorn house?
Okay. A unicorn house, in my opinion, is something, there's one specific aspect to it that you can't find in a lot of other places. So, for example...
It's the needle in a haystack.
It's a needle in a haystack.
The unicorn.
I don't like these headphones.
That kind of doesn't exist. But it does.
But they do. In our case, they do.
Dreams.
In my dreams?
No, your dream home.
Yeah.
It's like somebody is looking for something...
It's very specific. Like, I think specifically, like, you want a 3-car garage, and there's 5 3-car garages in the whole entire area you're looking for.
Like
you're
in
a unicorn
northeastern
house.
Oklahoma, or whatever. But it could be in your price range.
Exactly.
Like, finding a 5-car garage is, or did you say 3-car?
For example.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We've got a house that's 3, 6, 7, 8. Has you can fit up to 8 cars in there.
Right.
So, like, I don't know that there is another house under $1 million that's got an 8-car garage. I don't even know if there's one over $1 million that's got an 8-car garage that's for sale.
Sure.
So it's kind of the unicorn.
It's the outlier.
It is the outlier, exactly. So I think what's really interesting when you have an outlier is having to figure out what your strategy is, because you could have something special, but there's other things that a buyer might come and be like, oh, well, this isn't updated enough, or there's not this or that. Where is this price coming from? Well, there's only 4 houses with a 3-car garage in the whole entire area of Broken Arrow, for example. So you're a unicorn house. So how do you be a seller in that market? Like, what's your strategy in that?
You have to straddle between the facts of what you're going to appraise for versus the fact that there's nothing available, and so there's really high demand for it.
Exactly.
And then, what kind of financing are you willing to go for? Sometimes you'll get a low appraisal.
Right.
And then you say, well, I'm not going to sell it to you because it's worth more. But then you have to find a cash buyer.
Exactly. So then what do you do? How do you, this is where strategy comes in 100%. So I think you have really, I'm sure there's other options, but the main 2 that I can come up with and think of is that you have to be someone who's like, I can let it sit for 5, 6, 8 months and it's no big deal if it doesn't sell right away. I'm willing to like risk it and see what comes out. Or you're going to have to learn how to strategize and say, maybe I have to go a little bit less because the value isn't necessarily seen.
I don't have long enough to wait for that value to come up.
Exactly.
And that's painful.
That one's a stinger.
I don't like telling people that.
Yes.
Listen, if you want to have that conversation, maybe you have a house that has some really unique features, give us a call, the Baskin Real Estate Specialist, 918-258-2600. Or you can call the buyer line. We'll be able to help you there too, 918-740-0077, like 0077. I'm Darryl Baskin. You're listening to Future of Real Estate. Listen to the podcast. Find us at Facebook. We'll be happy to schedule a quick phone call with you at askinforbaskin.com. See you next week here on the Future of Real Estate.
You never give me enough time, Darryl.
I was just thinking.
Great show.
I try to squeeze that in like 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, here's what you gotta do.